It started on a Tuesday, not the kind of Tuesday that slips by unnoticed, soft as a sigh. This one came with thunder rumbling beneath the silence, like the world was holding its breath. If you've ever felt the weight of being the only one, the only black face in a room full of stares that pretend not to look, the only voice that never gets called on, then you already know part of Amira's story. But this isn't just her story. It's a question whispered in hallways and buried in lockers. How do you hold your ground in a place that keeps trying to erase you? Think about that. Would you speak up or stay silent? Would you walk away or stand your ground? Drop your answer in the comments, because this story might just change how you see everything. Fourth period math was a graveyard that day. The desks lined up like headstones, the air still and too thick to breathe. Miss Carter scribbled equations on the whiteboard, her back turned, while the rest of the class sat in various degrees of boredom and unease. Then the door opened. Amira walked in like a ripple across glass, silent, graceful, undeniable. Her dark curls framed her face, and her eyes held that kind of quiet that makes noise irrelevant. She didn't look left or right. Didn't need to. Everyone already felt her. That kind of presence doesn't ask for permission. She took her seat in the back, by the window, like always. Same desk, same notebook, same practiced stillness. But something was different. Across the room, Bryce Hunter, the school's crown prince of cruelty, leaned forward. He was the kind of boy who spoke in threats and walked like he owned the ground beneath his feet. Tall, white, football captain, used to getting his way with volume and violence. His eyes followed Amira like she owed him something. His fingers gripped his pen tighter. Snap. The plastic cracked. No one said anything. Bryce stood up. Miss Carter kept teaching, unaware or maybe just unwilling. A room full of kids suddenly forgot how to breathe. Even the clock stopped ticking. Bryce's voice ripped through the silence. "Hey, you! Yeah, you! Why are you even here?" A few students winced. One dropped their pencil. Amira didn't move. Bryce took a step forward. "I said, why are you here? This isn't your school. You don't belong here." The words hit like stones. Heavy, sharp, cruel. Miss Carter turned around. "Bryce, sit down. That's enough." He didn't. "No, it's not. She's not one of us. She doesn't fit. Why does she get to stay when my brother had to transfer out?" Amira finally looked up. Her eyes didn't flash. They didn't flicker. They just held him. "Sit down." That was all she said. Bryce laughed, a dry, cruel sound. He walked straight toward her. "You think you can talk to me like that? You think you're better than me?" His boots hit the floor like threats. Miss Carter moved to intercept him, but Bryce brushed past her like she was nothing more than fog. He reached Amira's desk and slammed his hand down. Her pen rolled to the edge. "Say something, ghetto princess. Come on, say it. Say you don't belong." Someone gasped. Bryce reached for her arm. That's when time snapped. The second his fingers touched her sleeve, Amira moved. Not fast, precise, like a whisper before a scream. She twisted out of his grip, spun behind him, and swept his legs from under him. Bryce hit the floor hard. The sound echoed off the walls like thunder. The room erupted, silence shattered, whispers exploded. What just happened? Did she just... Dude, she flipped him like a movie ninja. Amira stood over Bryce, her face unreadable. Then she did something no one expected. She sat back down, picked up her pen, and started writing. Miss Carter, still frozen, grabbed the classroom phone. "I need security, now." 2 guards arrived moments later. Bryce was still on the floor, groaning, confused. "She attacked me!" he shouted. "She started it!" Miss Carter shook her head. "No, you did." Students backed her up, even the ones who had never said Amira's name before. Bryce was dragged out, still yelling, and when the door closed behind him, it was like the school breathed again. Not relief. Respect. Later that day, Amira sat in the principal's office. Mr. Ellis, tired-eyed and weather-worn, asked, "You okay?" "I didn't start it," she said. "I know. He touched me first. We have the footage and witnesses." He leaned forward. Where did you learn that move? She looked out the window. My aunt. She taught self-defense to women who had no one else. She taught you well. Amira didn't answer. The next day things changed. Not with confetti, not with posters, just nods. A few students moved their backpacks so she had room to sit. A kid in her history class handed her a pencil without being asked. Even the hallways felt safer. But she knew better. Bullies don't always disappear. Sometimes they come back with friends or cousins. And sometimes silence just means the storm is loading. So Amira stayed ready. She kept her seat, back row, window side, same notebook. But now, when people looked at her, they didn't see someone out of place. They saw someone who wasn't afraid to hold it. Let me ask you this. If someone tried to drag you out of your place, your purpose, your power, would you let them? Or would you stay seated, eyes forward, voice steady and say, sit, down? Let me know in the comments. This story isn't over. Not even close. Because some people don't want peace. They want payback. And next time the threat won't come in boots and bruises. It'll come with a smirk, a lie, and a camera phone. Stick around. The storm has only just begun. The thing about storms is they never end where they begin. Friday came fast, but the energy in the school halls hadn't settled. If anything, it felt sharper, like something unfinished was hanging in the air, like the fight wasn't really over. Students still whispered about what happened in math class. About Amira. About Bryce laid out flat like a dropped trophy. And whether they cheered or stared in silence, everyone had an opinion. But Amira, she didn't want anyone's applause. Not really. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She just wanted to exist, to breathe, to learn without having to prove she belonged every single second. But surviving in a space that tries to erase you is exhausting, and even victories feel heavy when you know the war isn't over. So she moved through the halls like always, low, calm, steady. Her notebook tucked under her arm, her hoodie up, headphones in. But the glances were louder now. The nods too. Some respectful, some resentful. And then she felt it. That eerie feeling of being watched. Not the casual kind. The kind that coils around your ribs and tells you you're not done fighting. She turned. That's when she saw her. Leaning against a locker with her arms folded and a smirk like gasoline on her lips. Belle Carson. Long brown hair, leather jacket, boots that looked like they were made for stepping on necks. Her gold hoop earrings caught the light, but her eyes caught fire. Not rage, revenge. She didn't speak, not yet, just watched. That was worse. Amira met her gaze for a heartbeat longer than she wanted to, then turned and kept walking. But Belle followed, not right away, not fast, just close enough to let her presence echo behind Amira's footsteps, like a warning. Next period. History class. Amira sat by the window again, her usual spot, her anchor. Belle entered late. Loud boots, no apology. The teacher paused mid-sentence, then carried on. Belle scanned the room like a predator and made a show of sitting one seat over from Amira, not next to her, not behind her, just close enough to let her know. During the lecture, Belle leaned in. "You think you're safe now?" Amira didn't respond. Belle whispered lower. "You made my cousin look like a joke. My family doesn't forget that." There it was, the connection. Bryce wasn't just another bully, he was blood. Amira kept her focus on the board. Belle chuckled under her breath. "You don't know what you started." And then she sat back like she'd planted a seed. The rest of the day moved like molasses. Amira felt the shift. A few kids who clapped for her before now looked uncertain, like maybe they were picking sides. Lunch came. Belle sat 2 tables away, same stare, same smirk. This wasn't over, it hadn't even started. Then Amira's phone buzzed. Her best friend Tasha had texted. "Tasha, yo, you seen this?" Attached video. Amira opened it. It was a clip from the fight, but not the clip. Someone had edited it, cropped the start, sped it up, flipped the angle. It made it look like she attacked him, like Bryce had been sitting and she'd gone off for no reason. The caption, "The truth about Amira Jones." It already had over 1,000 views. Her stomach dropped, not because it scared her, because it felt intentional. She looked up. Belle was watching her phone screen from across the cafeteria. Then she winked. Amira stood up. No tray, no goodbye, just walked. Straight to the office. Principal Ellis? He looked up from a pile of folders. Amira, everything okay? I need a meeting. He blinked. Another one? This time, she said, her voice steady. Make sure there's a camera. The next morning, the school intercom buzzed before first period. A voice called everyone to the auditorium. Entire student body. Teachers, staff, even parents who had been emailed the night before. The lights dimmed. Principal Ellis walked to the stage. There's been a lot of talk lately. Rumors, videos, stories being twisted. So today we're going to let the truth speak for itself. He nodded to the AV tech. A giant screen lowered. The real footage played, from start to finish. Bryce yelling. Amira sitting still. The insults, the threats. And finally, the moment he grabbed her, and she reacted. Controlled, clean, defensive. Gasps from the crowd, a few claps, then silence. And in that silence, Amira could feel it again. That shift. That slow, uncomfortable reckoning. Across the room, Belle sat with her arms crossed, jaw clenched. It was her turn now. After the assembly, Amira went to her locker. She expected another whisper, maybe a warning. Instead, Belle was already there, with two girls, dressed in black, silent. Belle stepped forward. You think you're clever? Amira didn't answer. You humiliated my family. They did that themselves, Amira said calmly. Belle took another step, voice shaking with fury. You're a charity case, from the south side, acting like you're something, you're nothing. Amira closed her locker slowly. I'm still here, that says enough. Belle raised her hand. The whole hallway tensed. Some froze, some reached for phones. But before Belle could move, a hand caught her wrist. Officer Lane. Enough, he said. This ends now. Belle tried to twist away. She started it. We saw the cameras. We know who doctored the video. We know you followed her for 2 days. Principal Ellis arrived firm. You're suspended. Harassment, defamation. Your parents are on their way. Belle looked around. No one defended her. Not even her silent shadows. As she was escorted away, someone clapped. Then another. Not loud, but solid. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just breathes. That Friday, taped to Amira's locker, was a note. Plain white paper. Black pen. Thank you for standing up for us. Half the class. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just tucked it into her notebook. Because this was never about revenge. It was about staying upright in a world that keeps trying to bend you. And now she wasn't standing alone. But the storm wasn't over. It was evolving, and the next wave wouldn't come with fists. It would come with whispers, and power plays, and choices. Stay close. The fire hasn't gone out. It's just finding new ways to burn. Injustice doesn't die easily. It lingers, even after apologies, even after applause, especially when it's systemic, quiet, unseen, the kind that shifts shape instead of disappearing. The Monday after Belle's suspension, Amira walked into school different. Not because she had changed, but because they had. Students moved out of her way. Some nodded. A few looked down. But the difference wasn't just in their eyes. It was in the silence, the kind that respects you now, but once resented you for existing. She took her usual seat. Back row. Window side. Her notebook sat open. Pen poised. Same Amira. Different world. But peace? That's never permanent. By third period, the whispers returned. Only now they were sharper, more careful, less angry, more strategic. Someone in her chemistry class passed her a folded note. No name, just a line. They don't like how loud the truth got. She didn't react, just folded it back and tucked it away. The school wanted to forget, to smooth over the headlines, the online chatter, the uncomfortable mirror that had been held up. But Amira wasn't about to disappear for anyone's comfort. Still, it didn't take long for the next move to hit. That afternoon, she was called to the counselor's office. Mrs. Langley was all smiles and soothing tones. A desk covered in little plants and pastel sticky notes. Amira, she said, folding her hands, how are you really feeling? Amira blinked. Fine. I heard what happened. It's just some of the teachers are concerned. They feel like there's been too much tension around you. Tension I didn't start. Of course not, sweetie, but maybe we could consider adjusting your schedule. Something a little less triggering for others, maybe moving you out of that math class. There it was. Not suspension, not expulsion, relocation, a quiet way to erase a disruption. Amira stood. I'm staying in my class. If someone's uncomfortable with the truth, that's their problem, not mine. Mrs. Langley gave a tight-lipped smile. Of course, just options. But Amira knew better. Options are often just cages dressed up in flowers. The next day her locker wouldn't open. Someone had jammed it. By lunch she heard two teachers talking in hushed tones. That girl, one said. Always some kind of drama. And online a new account had popped up. Amira unmasked. Fake screenshots, private photos, edited videos, lies dressed as facts. And the comments? Some supportive, some brutal, but none surprising. Because once a black girl dares to take up space, the system doesn't just push back, it builds traps. So Amira did what she always did. She showed up, she sat in her seat, she listened, and she watched, because she knew someone was behind this. And they weren't working alone. By Friday she had a name, Clara Reed. Smart, rich, captain of the debate team, polished and venomous. The kind of girl who smiled in your face while setting fires behind your back. She'd been in the background since day one. Never yelled. Never got caught. But she was connected to Belle. And more importantly, her mother sat on the school board. Amira spotted her in the library, mid-conversation with two boys who suddenly went quiet when Amira entered. She walked past without a word, but Clara smirked. Later, Amira found a sticky note on a chair. Careful, the Queen doesn't like competition. It was war, but not with fists, with whispers, edits, bureaucracy, and Amira wasn't going to play defense anymore. That weekend she met with her aunt, the one who taught her how to fight. This is different, Amira said. It's not punches, it's stories, lies, power. Her aunt nodded. Then fight smarter, learn the game, beat them at their own rules. Amira started documenting every note, every comment, every photo. Every time a teacher looked at her sideways, she created a folder, evidence, truth. Then she found allies. Tasha, a tech wizard, helped track the IPs tied to the fake account. Devon, school newspaper editor, helped verify what was real and what was manufactured. Miss Sato, her English teacher, quietly encouraged her to write it out. Tell her side before someone else rewrote it. By midweek, Amira had a plan. She requested a meeting with Principal Ellis and the superintendent. Not to complain, she said, sliding the file across the desk. To report, to reveal. Inside, printouts, IP logs, email trails, a web of names. They were quiet for a long time. And what do you want us to do? Ellis asked. Tell the truth, publicly. Stop protecting people just because they smile in your meetings. The superintendent nodded slowly. We'll need to investigate. You should, she said. But understand this. If you don't act, I will. I've got my story ready. I know how to speak loud now. They believed her. By Friday, the account was taken down. Clara was suspended. The board held a private session to review how disciplinary actions had been applied inconsistently across race and class lines. Amira didn't gloat. She didn't post. She showed up. Again, quiet, present, powerful. A girl who didn't burn the system down. She just made it look in the mirror. But storms don't end when the rain stops. They end when roots hold strong. And Amira? She was growing deeper every day. The next test wouldn't be cruelty or lies or even power. It would be inclusion. Because sometimes the real battle isn't being attacked. It's being invited in only to be asked to shrink. It's strange how the world changes when it's forced to see you. Not when you scream. Not when you break. But when you don't flinch. When you make truth undeniable. When you stop asking for space and start taking it. After the investigation, after the board meeting, after Clara's suspension, the school moved like it was trying to apologize without saying the words. Flyers about inclusion appeared on bulletin boards. Teachers started saying things like, safe space and open dialogue. There were meetings and assemblies, statements and surveys. But to Amira it all felt rehearsed. Because change isn't made in policy. It's made in how people treat you when no one's watching. She still felt the eyes, still heard the whispers. They'd stopped throwing punches. Now they were holding doors and waiting to see if she would walk through them. And that's when the next test came, an invitation to join the Student Inclusion Board, run by Miss Hawthorne, young, enthusiastic, all denim jackets and motivational posters. She called it a chance to lead, to help shape culture, to have a voice. Amira didn't say yes, not right away. She didn't trust easy victories. But after a week she went, sat in the back of the room, listened. The board was filled with bright smiles and buzzwords, mostly white students, a few faces of colour. Clara's replacement, of course, was a girl named Julia, blonde, articulate, tired of being called privileged. Amira listened, said little, but her silence made them uncomfortable. After the meeting, Julia approached her. "Just so you know," she said, "I'm not like Clara." Amira nodded. "We'll see." By the next meeting, Miss Hawthorne asked Amira to lead a discussion on identity. She agreed, but not the way they expected. Instead of a slideshow, she brought stories, printed notes, anonymous voices from classmates, black, brown, queer, disabled, talking about feeling invisible, erased, boxed in by rules not meant for them. She read them aloud, one by one. The room got quieter with each one. A Latinx student who was asked if they spoke English, a Muslim girl told to remove her hijab for ID photos, a disabled student whose elevator pass was constantly questioned, and finally her own. They didn't want to hear me until I had to defend myself. Now they want my help fixing it, but I'm not a consultant for free comfort. I'm a student. Let me learn in peace. Silence. Then something cracked. Julia raised her hand. Her voice wasn't combative this time, just honest. "I didn't know it was this bad," and Amira said, "That's the problem." After that day, things shifted again. Not fixed, not perfect, but real. Students began submitting their own experiences. The board turned the stories into an exhibit in the school lobby, a wall of unheard voices. Teachers started asking different questions, like, "What do you need?" instead of, "Why are you upset?" And for a moment Amira felt it, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not safety, not silence, but space. Then came the assembly. The school had invited a guest speaker, a young activist who had led protests at her own university. Amira was asked to introduce her. She said yes, not because she wanted the spotlight, but because the mic was finally in the right hands. She stood on stage, auditorium lights blinding, heart steady. "My name is Amira Jones," she said, "and I'm not here because I fought back. I'm here because I shouldn't have had to." The crowd was quiet, then thunderous, not for the drama, but for the clarity. Afterwards, students lined up to speak to her, not out of pity, but respect. Even teachers, even Miss Langley. "I see you differently now," she said. Amira didn't smile. "Try seeing all of us." The school started to feel less like a battleground, more like a place being rebuilt. But rebuilding takes time, and storms don't disappear, they evolve. That night, Amira walked past the exhibit wall, stopped, looked at all the stories, felt their weight, felt their strength. Then she pinned up one last note. Being the first to stand doesn't mean standing alone. It means leaving space for others to rise too. No name, just truth. Because this was never about being seen. It was about making sure others are too. But in the background, new voices were stirring, some inspired, some angry, some ready to follow, others ready to fight back. And the next challenge? It won't be about being heard. It'll be about who listens. Legacy doesn't always arrive with trumpets. Sometimes it walks into a room quietly, sits at the back, and waits to be misunderstood. 3 weeks passed, no fights, no leaked videos, no threats by lockers, just hallway glances and shifting conversations. But Amira knew better than to trust peace that came too easy. Because now, the challenge wasn't whether she belonged, it was who she could bring with her. After the speech, after the exhibit, After the applause, the school had changed. But change is tricky. It doesn't settle. It asks more of you. New students had started seeking her out. Freshmen, kids from the South Side, LGBTQ+ students, first-gen immigrants, quiet ones who rarely raised their hands. They weren't asking for protection. They were asking how she did it. How do you survive and still stay soft? How do you push back without burning out? How do you speak when the room was never built to hear you? Amira didn't have perfect answers, but she showed up. She started a lunch group, not an official club, just a table, open chairs, space. Some days there were 3 kids, some days 15. They didn't talk about trauma, they talked about dreams, what they wanted to create, where they wanted to go. One day a kid named Eli, non-binary, soft-spoken, artistic, brought in a zine they were working on, art and poetry about being invisible. Amira helped print copies. Another student, Zane, who rarely spoke in class, started bringing a guitar he played during lunch. Nothing loud, just music that filled in the silence between stories. It wasn't a movement, it was a beginning. But beginnings make people nervous, especially people who feel power slipping. One morning, Amira arrived to find the exhibit wall gone, every pinned story, every anonymous note, taken down. No warning, just an empty wall. She walked straight to the main office. Principal Ellis wasn't in. His secretary just said it came from the board. No further details. Later that day, whispers reached her. A new superintendent was coming, someone more traditional. The school, it seemed, wanted order again, and that meant shrinking the space they'd made. That afternoon, Miss Hawthorne told her the inclusion board was being restructured. New leadership, she said, more balance. Translation, more palatable, less radical, less Amira. That night, she almost didn't come to school the next day. She almost packed it in. Said enough. But she remembered Eli, Zane, the stories that lived on in folders and hearts even if the wall was gone. She remembered the note she pinned. Being the first doesn't mean standing alone. So she returned. Same seat, back row, window side. But this time she wasn't alone. Eli sat beside her, Zane in front. Tasha joined too, and for the first time they weren't just surviving, they were growing. At lunch, they moved outside, started posting new stories online, anonymous voices, student art, poems, journal entries. They called it the Mirror Project. No signatures, no filters, just truth. And it spread, across classrooms, across schools. Even the local paper did a piece. The new superintendent requested a meeting. Amira went, not to ask for permission, to explain the purpose. This isn't protest, she said, it's presence. We exist, and we won't disappear just because you change the decorations. The superintendent, a stern woman with grey eyes, didn't smile, but she nodded. Then keep going. Just don't stop showing the other side, too. I don't erase anyone, Amira said. I just stop letting them erase us. The conversation didn't fix everything, but it didn't shut them down. Sometimes that's the win. The wall was never rebuilt, but Amira didn't need it anymore. Legacy isn't made of posters or plaques. It's made of people. And people were paying attention now. The bullies? They still existed. Some louder, some smarter. But they weren't the only voices anymore, because Amira didn't just find her power. She passed it on. One voice became 5. 5 became 20. 20 became a ripple. And a ripple is just a wave waiting for the right moment. So if you're watching this and wondering what you would have done if it were you in that seat, back row, window side, remember, you don't have to be the loudest. You just have to be real. Don't wait to be invited in. Show up, hold your space, and leave the door open behind you. The storm didn't break her. She became the thunder. Thanks for watching. Now it's your turn. Drop in the comments, what space are you ready to hold? And who are you going to make room for? Because someone out there is waiting to stand, but they need to see you do it first.